Have you ever had to work with a child in crisis? Have you ever had to use de-escalation and restraint techniques to keep a child safe? It's a challenging situation. This video is all about what you need to do to rebuild your relationship with a child following a crisis situation. Hi everyone, I'm Natalie from MyProgression, and this video is the last in a series on intervention. So I recommend checking out the other videos once you've finished watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, MyProgression offers CPD certificates to allow you to evidence your learning. See the description for more information. Being involved in a crisis situation, whether you're a child, young person, or the caregiver present at the time, can be a very difficult and traumatic experience for all involved. There will possibly be long-term effects, and these could either be negative or positive, but this largely depends on what happens after the crisis occurs. In this video, we're going to be exploring how to effectively manage the aftermath of a crisis, why it's important, how to begin rebuilding relationships with your children and young people, and finally, what future steps and planning you can put in place to minimise the risk of future crisis situations happening. What do we mean by crisis? When we talk about a crisis situation in a school environment, what we really mean is where a child or young person loses their rational thinking and acts out, either with becoming extremely anxious, displaying very challenging behaviours, becoming aggressive, or even potentially being at risk of harming themselves or others around them. Our other videos that are part of this series, titled Anxiety in Children, Defensive Verbal Interventions, and Dealing with Harmful Behaviours, are all about providing methods to support children and young people at different crisis levels. Whereas this video is about the aftermath. Rebuilding the relationship. Remember, before attempting to do anything following a crisis, the physical and mental needs of the child or young person and the staff present should always be a priority. Only once you're satisfied that everyone has recovered and fully calmed down from the incident should you move on to the next stage. And this could even be the next day. Following a crisis situation, it's so important that you focus on rebuilding the relationship with the child or young person. Demonstrating to them that they have someone who cares and supports them will aid in developing their resilience levels, which will be helpful in future situations. This is because they know that if they feel like this again, they can deal with it and you're still there for them without judgment. Before you jump straight in trying to talk to the child or young person about what happened, it's vital that you identify they're ready for this. They are both physical and emotional signs that you can look for to help you decide if now is the right time to approach them. Physical and emotional signs to look out for include relaxed body language, crying, apologising or displaying feelings of guilt, embarrassment, not tense, their complexions returned to their normal state, not drained or paler than usual. You might think surely they'd have a flushed or red face in crisis, so as long as it's not red, that's okay. It's all about waiting for the full resolution, and they're likely to be drained and weakened by the overexertion. If you go in too early, you could send them straight back into crisis. Along with this, if you try and push the child too much to talk too early, you're at risk of them shutting down to you completely, which will make rebuilding the relationship much harder. In addition to the physical and emotional signs to look out for, a simple question such as, "Jack, I'd love to talk to you about what's happened earlier. Do you think now's a good time or shall we wait until later?" Sometimes a child might not reach out proactively, but will respond positively when approached by us. Having the conversation. When the child has expressed they're ready to talk, you have 5 stages to follow during this conversation to ensure we're repairing the relationship properly with the aim of providing a safe and child-centred approach. 1. Gather the facts. You should be exploring what actually happened during the crisis. There are a few good questions to keep in mind to help you stay objective to the facts. Even though you know the answers to some of these questions, it's helpful to hear it from their perspective. Talk me through what actually happened. When did this happen? Was there anyone else involved? Where did this occur? 2. Look back historically and identify if this is part of an ongoing pattern. This is important as if it's part of a pattern, this could help us identify potential triggers for the child. For example, you might have a young person who always seems to reach a crisis point on Friday afternoons. Through observing the patterns over time and communicating with the child, you can identify that this is because Friday's lunch is fish and chips, which unfortunately, smelling this reminds the child of a very traumatic time, acting as a trigger for them. See our video on triggers for more information. And whilst you're there, like and subscribe to keep seeing more from MyProgression. Number 3, guide them to find alternative behaviours. You should aim to help the child reflect on their own behaviour in a safe and supportive environment. Use guiding questions to help them think about this. Is there anything you would do differently next time? Can you think of anything that we can do to help put things right? What emotions did you feel during the incident? Number 4, agree and set future expectations. This needs to have healthy input from both sides. If the child feels that they're just being told what to do again, it's likely they won't respond positively. We need to ensure our children are heard. So by doing this, we're giving them a voice. What do you think we should have done differently as staff to support you? When you first began to feel anxious or angry, what can we do to help? And finally, number 5, we should put the onus back on the child and provide positive encouragement. Thank you for speaking with me. Do we both agree with the plan we have discussed? Staff planning and next steps. A very famous quote says, the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. With this in mind, each time we're involved in a crisis situation with a child or young person, it's crucial that we're self-reflecting and putting steps in place to learn from past actions. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to document the event. This will help the organisation that you work for to recognise and monitor any trends, identify potential training needs, whether this is for an individual or on a larger scale, and finally, assess potential risk factors and triggers. Whatever setting you're working in, whether this is supply or permanent, being aware of who to talk to, from the designated safeguarding person to the pastoral team, is incredibly important. If you don't know who these people are, make it a task to go and find out the next time you're in work. This is vital to ensure your own and your organisation's learning and development, to help create consistent staff best practices that promote safer working environments for everyone. By responding to incidents appropriately and giving children a voice, allowing them to be heard and have a real input in the way that we work with them, will go a long way to strengthening trust and your relationships. If you found this video on rebuilding relationships useful, then send the link to someone else who might also like it. Sharing knowledge and resources will help everyone perfect their craft. I've been Natalie from MyProgression. Make sure you tune in next week to see more videos on working in education. And let's keep your career in motion.